I've been working full time. Oh, I've been grinding full time. I've been running full time. Full time. Full time. I've been chasing music full time. Been disappointed full time. But I kept it going full time. Full time. Full time. Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the Strategy is Her podcast. I'm your host, Satara Brown, and every week I'm showing you the unfiltered reality of betting on yourself. So last week we spoke a little bit about just getting started. And I'm laughing because I understand why people have reservations on just getting started. And while I 150% believe that you should just get started, whatever that looks like to you, I wanted to share a few stories about my journey as the founder of a nonprofit, having zero knowledge about what it took, what was needed, the parameters, anything about having a nonprofit. So I started, as I said before, by doing a back to school event back in 2015. At that time, I was working for a state law enforcement agency, and I took my own money and I purchased school supplies, and so did my family members and my friends. And we just went to the river and we just gave out school supplies. We made a flyer, we handed out the flyers, and we gave out school supplies to 50 kids. Mistake number one, we didn't know that you had to have a permit to do that. We actually didn't get into any trouble or anything. But that's just one thing that could have been avoided. So we continued doing different events and activities with our own funds. But when I started applying for grants 3 years later, I had no idea what I was doing. So before I applied for, I applied for our first grant before I opened our first summer camp. We didn't get the grant. I knew enough that if you had a summer camp, you had to have some type of licensing. So I checked with the health department, I checked with the child care council, and I was good on that part. So I didn't need a permit because we had a single use camp, meaning that we were only academics. So that means that the kids couldn't go outside for 3 hours and play football. That wasn't allowed. And if that's what we wanted, then we would have to get a permit through the health department. So we worked around their parameters for the first year because we were not in a position to get a permit because I was doing a million other things. At this time, I was the marketing director at a law firm. During that first year, somebody called the health department on us and reported that I was running an illegal camp. But as I told you before, I crossed my T's and dotted my I's with that situation. And so when they came to audit us or whatever the case was, everything was fine. So those are two situations that happened and they ended up working in my favor. But I've had situations that completely did not work in my favor. With one being, I got sued by the county. So during COVID, I wrote a grant and we received the grant. And when you receive a grant, typically you have to do reporting on the grant. So you can either receive a grant that is unrestricted funds or restricted funds. If it's unrestricted funds, you can use it for anything. You can use it to pay your staff, you could use it for your rent, you could use it for whatever you want. If it's restricted, there will be terms of what you only can use it for. So I think I got this grant in 2021. And at this time, the federal government gave out money to different municipalities, and the government actually fronted the money. So normally there's reimbursable grants like when you're dealing with government agencies, but this time they gave us the money. So they gave us $20,000. And whatever the specific reason was that we asked for I think it was for our art programming. We bought all the materials and we used it for that specific reason. I just didn't report on it. So rule number 1, whenever you do receive grant money, make sure you report on it. And they just kept reaching out to me and I just kept ignoring them. And like, I wasn't purposely ignoring them. I had a lot going on. At that time, during that time, I opened an art studio and things went super, super left with that. And in the midst of all of that, I still had to do this reporting and I just ignored them. So a year later, they were contacting me. And at this time, I no longer have the art studio. I still have all the equipment that I used the funds for. And I had the receipts. I could have reported on it. I just was like, I'm focusing on myself. I'm getting my master's and I'm just not dealing with it. Not a good idea. So I think this is like 2 years later now. It might be like 2.5 years later now. They sued me. And during this time now in my life, so at first I had the art studio and things weren't going well. Then I no longer had the art studio and I was trying to move forward in my own personal life with my own personal goals. That does not mean that the obligation to do the reporting stops. And I just totally ignored it. So when they came to my house and served me, my mom was sick. But now I'm like actually getting sued. Like they went to the courthouse and they filed paperwork. And I don't think I know. My ego got in the way because before they sent the paperwork, they called me and the lady on the phone was like, if you don't submit these receipts, we're going to find an attorney and file the paperwork against you. And I know that the county already has an attorney. So I'm like, why is she trying to threaten me when they already have an attorney on deck? Like they don't need to find an attorney. They have an attorney that handles these matters. So I'm thinking in my head, like, go find an attorney. I didn't say that, but I'm thinking in my head, like, go find an attorney. And they sure enough went and their attorney filed the paperwork with the court. Luckily for me, I worked for a law firm and I know a bunch of attorneys and they handled it for me. And all it was me literally submitting the receipts and the amount, the $20,000. But like, what if I didn't have access to an attorney? My arrogance and my ego would have literally cost me $20,000 because I would have had to pay the money back. So with that being said, the lesson is, 1, when you are doing any kind of business, make sure that you have some type of relationship with an attorney. Make sure that you consult an attorney. I remember my attorney, I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't even care. My mom's about to die. Like, I don't even have to worry about this. It's through the organization. It's not even going to affect me. And he's like, no, actually it is. So what I need you to do is get all the stuff together and just submit it. And I did. And things worked out fine. But it's like, if you think about it, it's crazy to get sued by the county. They will probably never give me a grant ever again. Or at least that department. But that's another reason why I started my consulting business, because I think that like people don't know the repercussions that can occur by making a silly mistake. Like, I didn't do anything wrong other than not submitting the paperwork. I had all the paperwork. I didn't do anything wrong with the funds. But like, when an entity gives you funding, essentially, if it's a government entity, that's taxpayers' money. So they have to be responsible for that. And you can't just ghost them. Like, they will come to your house. What's another hard lesson I learned? So if you have W-2 employees, you have to have unemployment insurance. So I always had staff, like in the summer seasons, for camp would be 7 months, and then we would do a week of training. So for 7 weeks. So for 8 weeks, so for 2 months, then they would have like 3 or 4 weeks off in September to October, and then we would start after school programming in October to June. But all my staff were part-time during the school year. I don't know what it was, but one year, my unemployment insurance lapsed, and that comes with like even bigger problems. Like problems that I still need to figure out. I can't tell you the exact numbers because it's been so long ago, but like, you have to pay a premium. And whenever you have W-2 employees, like at one point I had employees that were just 1099 contractors, and we have contractors, you don't have to pay unemployment insurance. But when you have those W-2 employees, you have to have unemployment insurance. And even like, they'll let you rock. Like, you can continue, like you can go a whole camp summer, but then they're going to send you something. The worker compensation board is going to send you something in the mail, and it's going to be a fine. Like, whenever you do your payroll, it gets reported. So like, I had a fine for like $2,000, and I ignored it. Like, this is so old. This is like 6 years old, but you get a penalty every single time, like, you keep ignoring it. So it's like $30,000, and it's like, it's never gonna go away. That's still something that I have to resolve. And like, I'm laughing, but it's really not funny because like, it could be a huge process. Who knows? Like, what if they're like, you could never have employees again? Now that I'm in the space where I have time to refocus on my nonprofit, where I have time to think outside of just my 9 to 5, that's definitely something that I am going to look to rectify, even if it means I have to get on a payment plan with them. But I think going through those lessons, like, I didn't know that. I didn't even know at the time that I didn't have unemployment insurance because, like I said, I have 2 seasons. I have the school year and then a break, and then I have summer and then a little break and then the school year again. And I think that, like, if I was around people in the field or even just knew more people who operated businesses, that would be something that I knew. And, it probably would have been avoided. And through being a consultant now, I love the women that I work with, and most of my clients are women, which I'm grateful about. And it just ended up being like that. But most of my clients are women, and like, when they start talking about getting an office, getting staff, and all these different things, I'm like, hold on, wait a second. Like, there's other things that you need to put in place before this can come true. Even like when I got my first office space, I'm like, okay, I think at the time, and this was like 9 years ago, my office, which was like a closet, it was super small, it was only $242 or $232 a month, but I had to get liability insurance. But that liability insurance differed from the liability insurance policy I had to have when working with the school district. So like, when someone tells me they have insurance, I'm like, yeah, but how much is your coverage? Because I know, like, at the school district, you have to have up to $3 million. So it's, when I say just get started, yeah, just get started, but there's also levels to this. Like, maybe getting started, like for me with my nonprofit, it was going and doing a back to school event. for 3 years I did events, and then I jumped into doing programming. But I also think that, especially now, and I'm sure there were 10 years ago, there's a lot of different resources. Through my journey, I learned of different professional groups that are available online and in person. There's a lot of like different small business groups. There's different groups for people of color. Make sure that you tap in and you get a mentor. At the event that I just had, someone said that there's a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. And I think that everyone should look into having both. I could say that at this point, I still wouldn't consider myself having a mentor. I mean, like the senator I mentioned before, she's someone that I look up to and that, you know, I follow the things that she does, but I don't really think that I have a mentor. And the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, they said, and don't quote me, but they said a mentor is someone who like supports you, gives you ideas and things of that sort. A sponsor is someone who puts you on. Like they mention your name in different rooms for different opportunities. And I think that while I am elevating right now and I'm stepping into something new, which is full-time entrepreneurship, I do want a mentor. And I don't really know what that looks like for me because I'm like involved in a lot of different fields. So it's not like, oh, I want like a mentor that has 20 nonprofits across the world. I don't really know exactly what a mentor would look like for me. But I think that in seeking a mentor, it's important that you find someone who aligns with what your goals are. So I guess that's a task to myself. Like I'll be thinking about for the rest of this year, and it's something that you don't want to rush, right? A lot of people are doing a lot of great things, but you don't know what it takes to be them, and you don't know what it's like behind the scenes. So I want to take some time to really think about what type of leader that I need that understands how complex I am professionally and personally, and how to tie all that in together. I would hate to think that, you know, I have this great mentor who owns a building or something, and they think that my ideas are all over the place or that my ideas are not obtainable. So I guess that's something that I'll be thinking about over, like I said, the next couple of months, because I don't want to make the same mistakes that I made through my nonprofit journey. And as you can see and hear, they were very costly mistakes, and they were also mistakes that could have been avoided. So I'm glad that I'm taking this time to really reset and just get grounded with myself. I don't know if I mentioned before, but I want to open a wellness studio. And this past summer, I did free yoga classes, which cost me $200, which to me, $200 isn't a lot of money. I got some funding from some sponsors, so we bought yoga mats. We utilized the parks in the area that I'm from. And I ended up like paying $100 when we had, we bought food one time. And then for the last 2 sessions, I paid the yoga instructors. And that was like a low cost for me. A lot of people are asking for yoga to continue. I don't want to pay a yoga instructor out of my pocket every week. So I would have to find funding, and that's not what was in the plans when I initially did this. And I feel like before, when I was like full nonprofit space, I'd be like, I have to meet the need. I have to meet the need. I have to meet the need. And now that I am more business minded, because a nonprofit is a business. I don't care what anyone tells you, a nonprofit is a business. And I'm like, okay, let me take a step back. Who's going to pay the yoga instructor? Who's going to show up every Sunday? You know, I sacrificed going to church in person all summer so that I could do the yoga in the park. But that's a sacrifice that I intended to make for 8 weeks, not for the rest of the year. And with my personal goals and my personal beliefs, it's important for me to be in the house of the Lord and not just watch it online. So when someone's like, hey, why don't you just continue yoga until it gets cold? I have to think about a million different other things. If we do it at an inside location, now we're talking about insurance. You know, I spoke about insurance in the beginning. Where are we going to get money for insurance? We also want to keep it free so that people don't have to pay. So it's like, I have all these great ideas. People have great ideas for me, but I think that through a lot that I've learned and a lot of the losses that I took, I just have to be very in tune with what works financially, what works well for my well-being. If I'm taking time off of working full-time and giving myself to a company, why would I commit to anything else right now outside of what I have going on? And I don't even really know what I have going on looks like. And I say that all to say that I have hopes of opening my wellness studio this fall. If that is pushed to a later time, I'm okay with that. There's no timeline. I understand that the need is there, but I also want to kind of do an assessment of the community so I can gauge and get a better idea of what the climate is here. So it's great when something's free, right? But like if you go and you get if you sign up for a membership at a yoga studio and it's $150, that changes a lot, right? So I want to test the temperature in terms of pricing, and I want to make sure that I choose the perfect location. Well, nothing's perfect, but the best location. I've been looking at different locations, and I've been looking since the springtime. But something is telling me just to slow down, because I feel like with my nonprofit, I kind of jumped out the window with a lot of things. Like I went from having a summer camp to having 4 after school programs. Like who does that? Like that was just such a big leap in a short amount of time that I can honestly say I wasn't ready for. So knowing what I know now, I am spending more time with more business-minded people. I am taking my time and I'm fully assessing the situation with anything and everything that I do. And I'm being mindful of where I use my time and my resources. And I guess now I'm looking for a mentor. But yeah, so I don't want to jump in a new arena because I am basically from the nonprofit world. And I don't want to, well, there's things that are transferable from nonprofit to for-profit businesses. I don't know this for-profit game as much as I know the nonprofit game. And even with my consulting business, like when you have a nonprofit, you don't pay taxes. With my consulting business, like you got to pay taxes. That's something that's totally different, right? So like I have an accountant and I have a bookkeeper for my nonprofit, but the work that they need to do on a monthly basis might be more enhanced with my for-profit business, with me doing coaching, taking like one-off consulting calls, selling merch, doing different events, now having this podcast. So there's different arenas to work in. And I think that you should really find someone more than just like watching someone on YouTube or the internet. You should really connect with someone who's already in the shoes that you want to be in, and seek out mentorship. So those are my thoughts. I'm going to be looking for a mentor, and I hope that you are too. And I'm going to check back in in a few months, well, I'm going to check back in at the top of 2026 to see if you did your homework, because I'm going to do mine. And I will see you next week on another episode of The Strategy is Her.